What I would like to talk about today is Agile and data. How do we get these two great tastes to go together? And because they have to, right? So, and they really are orthogonal to each other. You can be Agile without doing the data stuff. That's probably not a good idea. But you can also do data without doing the Agile stuff. Also, not that great of an idea. So there's some pretty good synergy here. So we often treat them as very different things, but there is a lot of overlap. They do intersect at some point. So let's work through that. So who am I? I'm a guy without a clicker. Okay. You know you're old when you use the term clicker. But anyways, so who am I? I've been doing this Agile stuff and this data stuff for a long, long time. And I was, as you heard, I've had these radical ideas for a long time that the Agile folks and the data folks can benefit from each other. We can learn from each other, and we can both do better. And I'm gonna talk a lot about that. We really do need to work together as a team. And we've had some challenges, as you've probably noticed. I think the Agile community, I would argue, is a bit out of control. There's some very good things going on in the Agile space, without a doubt, but there's also a lot of snake oil still being sold. There's a lot of questionable behaviors. There's a lot of interesting advice. There's a lot of fads. The Agile community lives for fads. Anyway, I won't go into the details on that, but we just keep going through these fads, and because it's a bit of an echo chamber. At the same time, though, and I'll share some slides on this. The data community very clearly has some observable, measurable challenges. One of the things that I used to do, and I sort of taken a bit of a break, is I used to do industry research. I'm a firm believer in having fact-based discussions. I want to gather data. I like to observe things, but I also like to measure things. And one of the challenges that we have is that it's reasonably difficult to measure what's going on in the data community. Data folks don't like being measured. And I think, and there's a serious lack of hard data about the data folks. And I'll share some, but just trust me on this. It's like pulling teeth sometimes to do any sort of research in this space because we're a bit insular as a community. We don't like being measured. And I think inherently, one of the reasons why we don't like being measured is we know it's not going to go well for us. And it doesn't. It really doesn't. Because I ask interesting questions like, what are people actually doing? Not what the gurus are telling us, not what the books of knowledge are telling us to do, but what are we actually doing? How well is it working? How successful are we? How do we measure success? What types of quality are we producing? There's a nasty question to ask the data community. We have some very, very severe quality problems. And there are some reasonably good quality studies in the data community, which is good, and they're not as pretty as they need to be. And I'll share some of my data, but we can go poking around looking for data quality data as well if you want. So we've got some challenges. I'm gonna work through these challenges, but I'm also going to work through what we can do. Because we have problems, but these are easily solved. Well, they're solvable problems. The solutions all require hard work and a bit of integrity in many ways that we need to work on. So, anyways, and certainly a bit of discipline. So, I'll share some of my experiences and share some of my ideas. Hopefully, you'll walk away with something. I'm going to start with defining agility. There is no official definition of agility. I suspect there never will be. That's not what we're about. And I think a very good test of how agile you are is can you live with this idea that there are no standards and there never will be and there's no definitions and there never will be? Because if you can't get your head wrapped around that, you ain't agile. So it's sort of interesting. And people will point to the Agile Manifesto, and that's a manifesto. It's not a definition. I'm looking for something that Webster's would be not ashamed of publishing. So it's got to be. Might not have to be at Webster quality, but certainly inching in that direction would be something I would look for. And it's interesting. Some of the original founders of Agile are still going back and forth on how to define Agile. There's some interesting conversations that I tend to just watch those conversations because you know they're going to go nowhere. But it's interesting, and people are getting upset. Like some of the true thought leaders in this space are getting a bit upset that we don't have a definition yet after almost 20 years. So, anyways, you know, maybe they should have worried about that 20 years ago. I'll talk about something called the cultural impedance mismatch. This might be a message that some of us don't appreciate, but I think if you step back and choose to observe, you go, oh, yeah, he's right. But anyways, we'll talk about that and take it for what it is. Then I'll talk about some mindset stuff, because the Agile folks can't shut up about mindset. And mindset's important, but you know, so is skill set. I don't care what your mindset is if you don't have the skills to do the job. Because if you don't have the skills, you're still useless. Sorry. And so, for example, my daughter, I've got a 9-year-old daughter, her and her friends, I can honestly say are the most Agile people I know. They're collaborative, they're reasonably they're as respectful as well as 9-year-olds are going to be. They work together well, they share, they learn together, they experiment. They really are truly Agile. But if I was to, and her and her friends are great kids, but if I was to say, here, go and build this, or go build a bridge, an Agile construction team, or go build a website, we'll have an Agile software development team, or go, do the marketing for the Bank of America, go be the marketing team. They're phenomenally Agile, they got the right mindset, but they don't have the skills to do any of those jobs. They just don't. Yes, they could gain them eventually, but they don't. So they got the mindset, no skills, still useless. So we've got to be really careful with that. So what are the skills? And then finally, we'll do a wrap up and take questions at the end. So how do we define Agile? So first of all, how do we define team agility? And this has been a lot of the focus in the Agile community. This is a good thing, but some of the key aspects of team agility are collaboration. Are we working together collaboratively? Are we sharing? Are we learning together? Are we doing the work in an evolutionary manner? So, are we working iteratively and incrementally? Are we trying to avoid the big bang, think it all through up front, and then just get it done mindset versus the, okay, let's build a small chunk, see if it works, build a small chunk, build a small chunk, build a small chunk, and explore and find out what people actually want instead of trying to predict the future. One of the challenges that several of us have been talking about this morning is this observation that our stakeholders are unable to tell us what they want. This is human nature, by the way. This is the ground in which we stand on. People can't tell us what they want. They're not good at that. And it doesn't matter anyways, because they're going to change their minds for good and bad reasons. So we have to have techniques. We have to go in with this assumption that people are going to change their minds. We've got to be willing to explore and give them an opportunity to rethink things and to and put more conscious thought into things. So what happens is, what we do know, people are very good at telling us what they don't like. It's like, here you go, what do you think of this? Oh, well, I like that. It's sort of neat. This is okay, but I really don't like this, and it doesn't do this, and doesn't do that, and I really wish it didn't do this. They can give us that sort of feedback so we can home in on what they want. This is why we need to work in this evolutionary manner. We're transparent. That's a double-edged sword. There's no hiding in the Agile world. So if things are going poorly, it's pretty clear. So for senior executives, they've got to up their game. They've got to understand what they're governing, what they're trying to manage. Because, particularly software development is a lot like making sausage. It's disgusting. And if you don't know what the heck you're looking at, you'll start to panic. So things that are completely normal to that Agile marketing team, or that Agile sales team, or the Agile data team, or the Agile XYZ team, like just standard operating day-to-day stuff, if you don't understand that, and you start seeing it from the outside, it's like, oh my God, we're all going to die, right? Oh, the building's on fire, we're all going to die. No, burning building, no big deal, who cares? We'll put it out eventually, not a big deal, right? So this transparency is both good and bad. The good thing about transparency is now the executives, whoever's trying to govern, can actually govern. Because without transparency, if you don't know what's going on, if you don't have accurate data, you can't make good decisions. So Stevie Wonder was right. Data's everywhere. But if you can't get access to it, or you can't get access to it in a timely manner, or if it's been changed on you, so if it's in a status report now, instead of in live data being generated by your tools, it's a bit harder to make actual good decisions. We have a greater focus on delivering real customer value. Agilists are phenomenally good at squeezing bureaucracy, in particular ones that are taking a lean approach. They're phenomenally good at squeezing bureaucracy out of the equation, out of their processes. Sometimes they squeeze a little bit too hard because they don't quite they don't identify what the value is. So I think what happens with data stuff, they often misunderstand the value. Some of it that is our fault though, because we're not good at communicating the value of this data stuff that we're doing. And what happens is the Agilists, all they hear is want, 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 just like on Charlie Brown. And they go, oh yeah, okay, boomer. And that's it. I don't know if you know that meme, but that's the problem we've got, right? It's an okay boomer situation. It's like want, 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 want. I don't know what the hell are you talking about? Go away. You're in the way, old dude. And they ignore you. And it's learning oriented. We want to be experimenting. We want to be learning and improving as we go. And this is one of the beautiful things about Agile is almost all of the interesting new stuff in the software engineering world and in the business world is coming out of the Agile folks. Because we're constantly trying new things. Now, sometimes we're trying things that other people knew about 20, 30 years ago, but and we're a lot of reinvention of the wheel, unfortunately. But we're trying, and a lot of good stuff is happening there. And we'll show. I'm going to work through some new techniques that work quite well coming out of the Agile community. And of course, there's enterprise or business agility. So how do we do this at the organizational level? So it's not just about software development. It really is about the entire organization. So an analogy I like to use is one of a racing car engine. So the Agile community has gotten really good at building more effective teams. We're really good at building these racing car engines and getting better performance out of the team and better quality and better productivity. We really are good at that. And this is measurably true. But then we take these racing car engines and we plunk them into our organizational tractor. And it's a big surprise that we don't win the race. Because, yeah, nobody has ever won the Indy 500 with a tractor, regardless of how good that engine is. And I suspect that will never happen. So, so if you want to win the race, you need a racing car. Of course, you also need a racing car driver, and you need a pit crew, and you need a track to run it on, and there's a bunch of stuff you need. But certainly, if all you've got is a tractor, you ain't going to win the Indy 500 with a tractor. Okay? And this, I think, is the fundamental challenge that most of your organizations have today, is that they're tractors, and they don't realize it. And they're going up against apex predators like Google and Amazon and eBay and organizations like that, which are coming to the race with a racing car and a team and the mentality that they can improve and get better. And you're still in you're still doing the Eddie Albert thing on your tractor. Remember who he is. Shaza. All right. Okay. So enterprise